Let's see some examples of for loops in Vyper. First, I'll create an external function, and then this will be here again, calls def for loop. We're going to run the for loop, and then we'll collect the results in a dynamic array, and then return this dynamic array so that we can see what's going on inside the for loop. So say dyn array of type uint 256, let's say max size 10. In the first part, I'll initialize this dynamic array. R of type dyn array of type uint 256, max size 10, and initialize this equal to an empty array. So let's run a for loop. The most simplest way to run a for loop is to say for I in range, let's say up to 5, and let's just append this index into the array, r.append I, and then we'll return this array. This range will execute the for loop from I equals to 0 to I less than 5. So what you're going to end up with is a dynamic array having elements from 0 to 4. Okay, let's try compiling the contract. I forgot to add a type for the range over here. The type will be uint 256. Okay, let's try compiling again. Deploy the contract, and then let's call the function for loop, and we get a dynamic array with elements 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's the simplest case of a for loop using range. We can use range in a different way as well. We can specify the starting index and the ending index. So for example, let's call this for loop start and end. Again, we'll initialize a dynamic array of size 10 of type uint256, and let's run this for loop from 5 to 10. So starting index 5 and up to but less than 10. Compile the contract again, and then let's deploy a new contract, and then call the function for loop start end. And what do we get? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, since the range was from 5 to 10. Another way to run a for loop is to iterate through a fixed size list. For example, let's call this for loop list. And again, I'll initialize a dynamic array so that we can see what's going inside the for loop. So I said that we can iterate through a fixed size list. So let's create one first. Nums, say uint 256 of size, let's say 4 is equal to, let's put 11, 22, 33, and 44. And then we'll replace this range with the fixed size list, nums. Since the element of nums is uint256, this I will be also uint256. And for each iteration, we'll simply append it to our dynamic array and then return this. Let's try compiling the contract. And then let's deploy a new contract again. And then call the function for loop list. And we get the elements 11, 22, 33, and 44. And these are the elements of the fixed size list, nums. For the next example, I'm going to show you how to skip an iteration of a for loop, and also how to break a for loop before it reaches the end condition. So to begin with, let's copy this one and then paste it here. So far, the for loop is going to run from I equals to 0 to I equals to 4, since the range is 5. Let's say that you wanted to skip this for loop for I equals to 2. Then what you would do is type continue. So for example, if I is equal to 2, then continue. This will skip the rest of the code. So for I equals to 2, this will not be appended to this dynamic array. Then go on to the next iteration where I is equal to 3. Another example is how would we break out of a for loop early. The way we will break out of a for loop early is by using the keyword break. For example, when I is equal to 4, let's exit this for loop. So say if I is equal to 4, then break. When I is equal to 4, this will be the last iteration. However, here it says when I is equal to 4, break. So the execution of the for loop ends here, and then we exit this for loop. What you're going to see is that this part of the code will not be executed. So in the dynamic array, the element 4 will not be included. Let's call this function as for loop skip. Okay, let's try compiling a contract. And then let's deploy a new contract. And then call the function for loop skip. And what we end up with is a dynamic array of 0, 1, and 3. 2 is not included since it skipped this iteration, and 4 is not included since the for loop exited when I was equal to 4.